One time when my oldest was very young, she walked in on me, you know, getting my nut.
Because I need to, this pussy is not gonna eat itself, okay?
I once, if I did keep the evil away.
Exclusive. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. I need it.
For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Who is you? For make me believe otherwise. You couldn't stop what God create. A greatness running in my blood. Hello?
Yes. And my bad. I am running late like a motherfucker. Kai Storm in the building. Motherhood sex marijuana in the building. I am running late because apparently my equipment is acting the fucking fool right now. Sorry. My equipment is acting fool right now. And I just what's going on? What's going on? Please act right. Please act right. Shit. Okay. Okay. All right. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on, Charmaine. I'm coming. I'm just having some equipment situations right now. Oh my God. I'm having some equipment situations right now. Well, my shit don't want to act right. Just stand up, motherfucker. Just stand up. Oh my God. What's good, Queen? I am so sorry for running late, but my equipment is acting the plum fool, and I just want.
It's okay.
And I'm just like, oh God, what the hell is going on? Now, Ruby is going to be coming in and out because she actually has a comedy show tonight. But you know what I'm saying. But of course, I'm glad to speak to you, and definitely the show must go on regardless. You know how
Let's
that
get
goes. So
it.
yes, let's get it. Motherhood sex marijuana in the building with Charmazinnng in the building. How you doing, Queen?
I'm doing good. I feel real blessed on this Sunday, and I mean that for real, truth.
Nice.
And
That's
just,
exactly what we like to hear.
you
That's
know,
exactly what we like to hear. Absolutely. Now, I always like to ask our guests because the fact is, it's important to know, you know what I'm saying? I mean, yes, the clouds be clouding. So if we don't remember, we don't remember, you feel me?
it's all
But at the same
right.
time, I feel like there had to been a way that I had to eat that, we as in motherhood sex marijuana followed you or you followed us. Like somehow me and you connected or we connected in some sort of way. And I'm trying to figure it out, but I'm gonna keep it real with you, girl. I can't remember that shit. I remember that shit. So I figure, let me ask you. Well, first of all, stop that. Stop that. First and foremost, introduce yourself, introduce what you do, and then we get into the questions of being all up in how we found each other and everything. So let's start there.
Of course. Charmaine. I go by Charmazinnng on Instagram. I
Mm-hmm.
am in my professional life, I'm an educator or a teacher. I come from the education background with primary school, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. And then just recently, cannabis was what called me to explore it in a professional setting. And before you knew it, I said, I'm done with the classroom. I'm going to hit the streets because this is something that the people need to know about. And
Word.
I don't see where where it's being talked about. So let's go. So I I took my skills in education and applied it to the cannabis industry here in New York State.
Mm,
And let's get
nice.
the people informed.
Now see that definitely I love that, you know, you come from an educational background, you definitely, you know what I'm saying, and you stepped into the cannabis world based on, you know, wanting to educate us. Because I mean, there, you know, a lot of us, you know what I'm saying, yes, you know, we have our certain levels of education, and then some of us that, you know, just enjoy the plant recreationally, or if they deal with it medically, they, you know, they deal with it, you know, with whatever, you know, with however you know, constraints or rules that they deal with it. But, you know, for someone that, you know, came from an educational background and is just, and wants to step into this space to, you know, to open the, you know, open up that lane, I absolutely commend you. But you know what I mean?
Thank
But
you.
first, yes, the first question I definitely want to ask is, because like I said, I'm assuming maybe we met at an event, or somehow we crossed paths. Like, how have you heard of motherhood sex marijuana?
That's a great question because immediately when I recognized how important cannabis was to me, the first thing I said was, where are all the Black women at? Because I get information best, I feel most comfortable when I hear other Black women talk about their experience with a thing, just anything. And
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make sure there was a community of Black women invested
Yes.
in it. And I love to learn by podcasts. I love podcasts. I can listen to podcasts
Nice.
all day long. So the first thing I did was go on Spotify and look to see cannabis, what's coming up. Is it Black people talking about that? And I was in from there. So I found y'all on Spotify. Definitely, yes. Found y'all on Spotify, immediately subscribed and said, I want to get invested in what Black women are talking about when it comes to weed and their relationship with it, because I never had that. I didn't come
Mm,
from that. And I built trust in having my own experience with weed and being high and using it as
mm,
medicine because other Black women were talking about it. So it
right.
comes from a place of safety. I always feel safe in the company of Black women, and
Mm-hmm.
they have not followed me. So that's how I got here. That's how I followed y'all. I did follow y'all first. I definitely did.
Oh, that is awesome. That is really awesome. You know what I mean? Cause you know, I figured, like I said, you know, put up the suggestion that we possibly could have met at events, because that's one thing I definitely do as, you know, the New York half of motherhood sex marijuana. I definitely have been to a lot of, you know, canna events, and of course, if it's possible to give out a card, or, you know, tell somebody your information, or wear one of our, you know, our nifty cute shirts, you know what I'm saying, where people notice and
Good.
go, hey, where you people from? You know what I mean? So that
Mhm.
always works. Now, you know what I mean? Now, I hope Ruby definitely, you know, shows up, because I absolutely would love for you to meet, you know, the Portland half of motherhood sex marijuana. Now, the story behind us is that we both lived in Seattle, and we met at a smokers party, and literally, you know, she came to me with the idea of this podcast, and at first, you know, I kind of mulled it over, and in my head it was like, wait a minute. First and foremost, I'm a mother. I definitely am a mother of three, three beautiful girls. And I've been loving weed since I was 16 years old. So, and definitely had sex in order to have them, and still having them, and still having sex to. I mean, I ain't having sex to have kids, but you know what I'm saying, girl. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so the
It's a life of
those
pleasure. That's
subject
what
like
it is.
right, those subject matters automatically came together for us, and living this lifestyle, and being able to have a safe space to discuss subjects in our life, because because we're mothers, and we love this plant. You know what I mean? People look at us a certain type of way, so we're fighting that stigma. And then there's they might be educators, or like social workers that might try to put some kind of disrespect on our name based on we smoke weed, so
Mhm.
we fight in that. You know what I mean? And it's not just women. It's it's parenting. Period. You know what I mean? It's whoever's in this realm. And so when I saw your video about oh yes, Ruby's in the building. Yes, let's introduce Miss
Yeah.
Ruby Doll in the building. Come through,
What is
child. Talk to
up,
the people.
beautiful, amazing people? Oh
How
my
you
God.
doing?
Welcome. I just wanted to say hi. I'm going to shut up now. I'll talk later.
Thank you.
Well, of course, I made sure and told her all about you, told her about how we met, and how you're the Portland half of Motherhood Sex Marijuana. You know what I mean? And of course, you know what I mean? I made sure, and, we're talking about, how she is, she started as a, teacher. I'm assuming your teaching started in New York City?
I started teaching here in New York City, and then I moved to Atlanta and taught there.
Mm.
And in Atlanta is actually where my cannabis story started.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I could.
I've heard a lot of different things about Atlanta and cannabis. I mean, obviously, it must be more welcoming, right?
You know what was funny was, and I could tell you my cannabis, because that's one thing I love to ask people. And it's something I reflect on a lot with the work that I do, because it
Hmm.
harms the people that I talk to. But
Right.
cannabis story started in 2020 during the pandemic. And
Mm.
mind you, I came from, I know, what a time, right?
No, a
2020
lot of
was,
no, but honestly, a lot of businesses started right during the pandemic. It was like a lot of people had to be creative because they was taking jobs away, and it's like, yo, what you expect me to not to eat? I still got to smoke. The weed costs money. Hello.
and in 2020, was I was definitely virtual teaching from home, and I live about 10 minutes or so away from downtown, midtown Atlanta. Um, and something just in me was like, we're not really doing too much. And it was like
Mm,
springtime. I think Versus was a new thing that had just come out, and the people were hype
good.
about it.
Yes.
I had a friend who can bake, and he was like, yeah, like I bake edibles. So I said, all right, I'm willing to try it. Now, when I was growing up, I had asthma, and everything they told me about weed, cannabis, like I was a child of dare, like it worked on me. And so in my mind, I was like, I was a child of dare. They did their job. And I was like, all right, I can't be, if I end up going to the ER, it's going to be weird explaining this to my mother. She's going to be like, what you doing out there? But I'm
Mm.
grown, but being Caribbean, you always have this level of, let me respect my parents and their wishes, you know?
Hey, Caribbean parents are different parents. Trust, I believe me,
You
I
know,
know.
Samoan parents are the same way, but I was just ruthless. I didn't give a shit. I was like, I'm going to take the ass beating. It's going to be all worth it. That was me.
I followed the rules. I didn't want to be in trouble. So I told the line, but I said, let me make sure I can just, go right up to it and pull right back. Cause I didn't like anybody having to say stuff to me. So I said, let me
Of
just do what
course.
I'm told. But I said, all right, I can't
Okay.
smoke, but let me see if I'll try an edible. And he baked a cookie. And first of all, it was a really good cookie. He knew what he was doing. So shout out to my friend. But then the the journey that the edible took me on in a short amount of time, like a lot, you know how a lot of people tell their edible story the first time and they're like, it was crazy, I was out of my mind, like I was freezing, I couldn't my things just go left quickly. That was not my story. And I think I was prepared. I said, like, I know that you got to do less, so let me do less. But at the time, I didn't even know what milligrams was, what was in it at all. And I just trusted him. I trusted that he knew what he was doing. I had a quarter of the cookie, probably a little bit less. And I was just sitting there in his house. We were both, I think there was a Versus on, actually. I do remember that. And I said, let me just make myself as comfortable as possible on his couch. And he was doing something on his computer and I was just sitting there. And then all of a sudden I felt like the warmth and the wave come over my face. And I said, I remember looking to the right and all I could do was like smile. I said, I don't know what's going on, but this is a good feeling. Like I didn't zone out or like freak out or anything. I just really let the high over me. And just went on this like quiet, it was calm. It was like the ideal condition it's supposed to be in. It wasn't no hype shit going on. It was very, I felt safe. I was listening to music. It was a vibe. And then the rest was history from that point forward, because what I knew at that point, and this was probably in May, in springtime, that experience, like into the next day, I said, I could feel these lingering effects. Like I feel good and I don't feel, like there's nothing wrong with me. And so that was immediately after that, I said, I need to find a way to get this on my own somehow. And so my cannabis story starts with edibles. And then from that point forward, this was 2021, January 2021. I moved back to New York City, to Brooklyn. And by that point, I said, I need to find somebody. I need to find my own plug, because I know for real I'm in it. Something has changed me. I didn't know what it was at the time, but what I know now is that the medicine was really making me move differently. And at that point, all I was doing was just sitting at home in the house, and it was during the pandemic. We couldn't do too much, you know? So I was just at home. When I was done with school and work, I would just chill, we was watching hella news because a lot of stuff was going down. And we was glued to it. There was protests happening. There was old boy was still trying to get the election back then. So it was just news. And when the news was done, I said, you got to find a way to chill out. So I would just be sitting watching music videos and YouTube and just like TV and be high on the weekend, because I had a little weekend. I was like, all right, you can get high on the weekends. You can do it on a Friday. So I found somebody that made drinks. And I said, that's it. That's how I want it to be. I didn't want to eat like sugary stuff, because that's how I started off. And you can't have too much sugar now. You can't be having a Cinnabon every time you want to get high. So like find something different. And I went through, this was Georgia, so there was no legal nothing. And I was going through like Reddit, I was on Twitter, I was on Instagram, and the hashtags, like putting in search keywords like how do I find somebody that can make edibles, because you can't put that out there like that. So but eventually I found somebody. I was in it, and at first I was ashamed, and that's part of the story too, that I acknowledged, like there was shame attached to it, because I didn't have anybody to talk to. I didn't have anybody to really like explain, like I feel that I'm not like doing bad things, and I'm not. Yeah, I was in it by myself, which is why in the beginning I said, like, when I knew that this was going to be a real part of who I was, I wanted to hear what more Black women were saying, because what we know about weed and cannabis is completely wrong, and it's not the truth. And I heard I was unlearning because of another podcast that I listened to. And I said, this girl is doing real well in her life, and she's talking about having gummies and edibles. So like, why not? That was how I started to be like, well, then something ain't adding up, because what they're saying happens to you versus how I'm feeling and how I'm moving, that don't make no sense. So
Precisely. And it's actually the foundation of why this particular podcast exists, because there was just too much of that going on, right? There's too much conflict, there's too much misinformation, there's too much propaganda, and there's a lot of ignorance. I'm glad that in 2025 right now, I'm glad that I can confidently say, if anyone has anything negative to say about the plan itself, not the ways by which it's used, like smoking or anything. If you have something bad to say about marijuana, you're a informed person. You need to educate yourself. And we ain't over here trying to just get high because we think that it looks cool. On the contrary, I wish I didn't even need it, to be honest with you. Why do I need it? I use it for my depression, my anxiety, my back pain, and every other pain in my body. Also, I have a lot of stress, as welcome to the club, living in, America. Yeah,
welcome
there's
to being a human being.
Trauma. Yeah, you guys. So I just want to thank this queen right here, because it's these kind of conversations and the referring to the other podcast that you were talking about. It's something that was said there. It's something that was said when you were just speaking right now, and which is going to help people to, move back the layers of bullshit. And so I don't condone drugs. I don't even have enough money to do drugs the way I want to. But one thing I'm not going to do, especially because I have these other people staring at me all the fucking time, I'm going to do something that's a little more responsible. But if you think about big pharma, right? You think about all of the fucking prescriptions and the scientists and the laboratories. What the fuck you think those things are? Drugs.
Right.
And this queen right here just shared how she maybe had a different view on it. She experimented. She was in a safe place. These are all things that you need to be aware of. And then it's like you were responsible about it. You were dosing yourself properly. You weren't trying to overdo it. You wasn't trying to look some type of way. And it's like, I think that there's something to be said when somebody can just kind of make decisions on their own trial and error, and not just shit that people talking about. So Charmaine, you are so amazing. Can you also just elaborate on if you got any negative feedback from your family and friends for this newfound gospel that you belong to now?
Absolutely. So once I understood and saw how I was moving, when I moved back home with my parents in 2021, and how that came to be is a different story. I would have never thought that I would come back to New York. I really thought if I'm leaving to go to Atlanta, I really thought I was going to be there for a long time. So between moving back home and coming here, what I noticed was I had a roommate in Atlanta, and I wasn't sharing with her at the time. So that was some stigma and shame. I definitely wasn't telling my parents, and I had to hide how I was getting my edible drinks, my infused drinks. I found somebody a plug, and they made sorrel infused beverages.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good too. And I had to put it in the fridge, and I found myself moving shady, because I didn't want to have to explain what is this and why all of a sudden you going downstairs for 5 minutes and so. But I'm over time in 2022, I told my brother and my sister-in-law, but she's my sister. I was like, y'all, I think I want to go into the cannabis industry, because what I know now, what I've experienced, I feel different. I feel changed in good ways that they're not talking about. And at the time, what I didn't realize was that I had activated my endocannabinoid system,
That's right.
Endocannabinoid.
We love that word around here. Endocannabinoid system, baby.
We damn sure.
You better make sure the receptors are recepting on those endocannabinoid system. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, it is. I
That's
had
right,
activated
Queen.
it in ways I didn't understand yet. So I was in a very stressful job position at the time in teaching. And
Mm,
it got to the point where I had started to consume more frequently. So it was going from just on a Friday, Saturday, hard stop on a Sunday until the next week to it started to become like maybe let me, it's Thursday, that's close enough on a Friday. And then
mm,
eventually I started to be like, well, I'm not, feeling too terrible on a morning on a weeknight. So I started to increase. And there was just one particular moment or week or something where I just did not, I was having a bad week at my job and I had an edible or something. I think at that time, New York had definitely gone legal because they legalized in March 31st, 2021. And that was
mm-hmm,
in 2022, I think so. I was sitting and I was high, and my thoughts about my situation started to just download such a way where I said, now my situation is making sense and I'm high. And if these are my thoughts and I'm high and I'm like, peeling back the layers of things to get to a
mm-hmm,
solution. And is not that was like a chapter beginning or closing. I said, it's not about just being high anymore. My thought process has like gotten more streamlined, I guess I could say.
exactly.
And that's when I started
Clarity.
to get clarity. It was clarity. I had way more clarity um as I was processing some very stressful work situations. And that's when I started to pay attention more. But prior to that, I was like, oh, I'm just listening to my music. I was listening to music all the time, just looking at the artistry. I remember it was the summer of 2020, and I had got high with a boyfriend at the time, and we watched Thriller. And the
Mm.
boy damn near cried. He said, "This is the most amazing thing I'd ever seen." And I was like, "We look watching Michael Jackson high. It can't get any better than this."
Okay,
Agreed.
okay, because at the
Unless
end
it's
of the
Prince,
day,
and then it's like a 1-for-1.
and then at the end of the day,
It
one of the
was
things that people don't people like to associate it with all drugs, but no, 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 no. It's special when it comes to marijuana. Marijuana opens up your creativity
different,
levels.
different,
Yes.
It definitely is a relaxer. It definitely is
different.
a personal assistant. In my head, girlfriend be sitting down and be like, "Hey, yo, by the way, you got to make an appointment for such and such. Yo, you know what time it is around this year. You need to make sure and look out for that and that and that and that." You know what I'm saying? She sit down and let me know what's good. You know what I'm saying? As we smoking together in my head, we smoking together. You know what I mean? So in many ways, marijuana is an assistant. And right about now, in the legality of marijuana and what I'm saying, one of the things that what I'm saying, we as a society must do, what I'm saying, we as a pothead society must do is enlighten these motherfuckers that ain't enlightened about what's going on here. You know what I'm saying? There's creativity going on. There's I mean, yes, there's a lot of people around that handle their
Healing.
shit however they handle their shit, but
Yes,
the name of the game is creativity is going on around here. There's no laziness going on around here. There's everything is being managed and handled, and weed is a medicine being used to handle that shit rather than pop some pill that might have some kind of side effect that you ain't used to, and all of a
Definitely
sudden
have
you
some
gotta
side
figure
effects.
out. You know what I'm saying? Like the only side effect of this is going into your fridge and knocking every motherfucking shit down or ordering some shit on Grubhub.
Or
Like
being
what the fuck?
sleepy. Being a
Like
little
or
sleepy, ain't
being
hear nobody.
sleepy. Cause best believe I get some good ass sleep when I'm high. Some good
truly, truly.
ass sleep
Energizing, depending
happens
on the
when I'm
strain.
high. And these are the
And
kind of fucking,
everything,
these are the kind of the objectives that gotta be, what I'm saying, created and pushed out into the universe. You know what I'm saying? So we can, get rid of the negativity and all the, what I'm saying, and all the situations going on. So So Charmazinnng, are you so you are current? So are you still working in schools, or are you trying to like maybe go into like college education? Because I do know like here in New York, they're definitely having certain college programs. You know what I'm saying? Certain university programs where they're allowing what I'm saying, cannabis education, cannabis levels of education. Are you going into that, or are you still, teaching, wherever you teach?
I am now no longer in the classroom with youth.
Okay.
Even though I can I manifest here on the podcast? Because
Oh
I love
hell
to
yeah! This show is all about manifesting.
Please.
We
absolutely.
we love manifesting. Please go on.
Yes.
Please let it go, Queen. Let it go.
We're
That
gonna help
is,
you.
I would love to see more conversations and structure around how we talk about cannabis and plant medicine as a whole with the
Mm.
youth. Even before cannabis, I have always prioritized like the taboo, I guess you can say. There's hard conversations to have with children. There's just life
Indeed.
experiences will teach you. I've always thought like there are, from training and from working in the classroom, there are ways to have conversations with children about things. It just has to be age
Mm-hmm.
appropriate. There's going to be some reading materials. Like you have to be receptive, curious, which they should be. They're allowed to be, and that's okay. And
And trust
which
me,
means
they
there's
are.
room to they, and you can't stop that. You can't stop children
I
from being
mean,
curious.
the fact is, I have my own, and we also gotta between not just having my own, but also you paying attention to your environment. The fact is, these kids, they'll be babies that don't know how to read or nothing, but give them somebody's phone and they going to YouTube. They gonna find their favorite show. They
They'll
gonna
be,
hit that shit real quick.
yes.
Like what? I don't need to
Probably
read the name. I
subscribe
know
to
what
some
my show
shit.
look like, motherfucker. Who you talking to? You what? So you know what I mean? And for me, as a mom, as a cannabis mom, I'm having a conversation in my house with my kids. I'm not letting them walk out into the world and be, some kind of wet behind the ear kind of. Nah, my mama told me about that. Fuck out of here. Who the fuck is you? Who the fuck is
And
you?
that builds stronger relationships around, with just as individuals alone, but also when you include plant medicine and you include cannabis and those types of conversations. I mean, especially
Mm.
I grew up, in grown folks' business, but still not in grown folks' business. So I saw them, pouring, and I'm Caribbean. So I see, drinks at the bar, at the party, in like the basement parties was jumping. And I understood, that's what the adults do. They have their drinks and I have my little soda over here, and they cared about me enough to be like, let me share some information with you and explain some of this stuff.
Mhm.
So because they knew, they were like, if I tell you this now, you're not gonna go out in the world and try something and be caught
Informed
up. You know what I'm
decision.
saying?
Yes. Giving you the
So,
tool.
right. So I had that nurturing as a child, and then carrying that with me, that there are ways to inform the youth about things that are necessary for them to know without
Mm.
scaring them, without shaming them, especially because I've seen what happens when you hold on too tight. I had friends that went left, and my parents were always like, and you see why? And I was like, all right, I
Yes,
understand. But it always made me be like, be the adult in the room where they want to come to you versus run away from you. So
exactly.
I would love to see, and I don't know when this would be because we still have a lot to talk about when it comes to weed in the community. And the work that I did all last year in 24 was outreach work, talking with the people on the street, quite honestly, like in my neighborhood.
Mhm.
And people came to me with their own cannabis stories about you know, like now that they're seeing these job opportunities come out of
Right.
what feels like the weeds for real. It's like, where was all this before? And then they start
Right.
whispering. They're like, no, you know, I used to, or I have a son who's, and I'm like, you don't have to whisper.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, talk
Yes.
about that openly and honestly, because I'm the right person to receive this, and I want to be able to reassure you that that this is nobody was doing something bad, especially when it comes to Black and brown
Normalize.
people. It was not
Yes.
they
Normalize.
I always say they, but the government structure that we're operating within has always has traumatized us, has lied on us and lied to us. And that
Continues to
has carried through these generations to the point where we're still very much afraid. And I mean, there's a lot to be afraid of, especially if you live in some parts of the country where it is completely outlawed and you will get locked up for real. But here, but it starts here. Like, if we can have these conversations here in New York, and like you said, there are universities and schools now that have certificate programs. There's the University of Maryland, I believe, has a degree program, which is a huge deal. It's a big deal. It's a really, really big deal. Which tells me that we're moving the needle. We're shifting the conversation, and once it starts getting to higher education, now we got something. Now we're on a roll. Because imagine a world where people can get a degree in cannabis. What could that change?
Exactly.
I would go to every class that would provide me that.
Yo, that I mean, you know what I'm saying? That would actually encourage my ass to want to go back and get a degree. Like, wait a minute, how much you gonna charge me first? Because I'm trying to understand. Like, is this free education? Because girl, I can't afford it. I'm trying to understand. Is it free education? But you brought up a valid motherfucking point though, as far as bringing, you know, cannabis education within New York City education, as far as, you know what I'm saying? Because of course I'm thinking, even if they considered it, let's do it, because I'm out here, I'm living in New York City. I definitely have children that grew up in New York City educational public schools. So I'm thinking to myself, if this proposal was sent into their, you know, their desk, like, you know what I'm saying, I'm assuming that they would want to approach this between junior high school and high school, because those are the ages that you would, you know what I'm saying, you would want to approach it at first. You know what I mean? But when you really think about it, it should be, you know,
I'm
it
going to
should be
challenge you.
throughout. It should be throughout, because, like I said, if the child is at home, like my children, where you have where the parent, you know, enjoys the flower and have spoken to the children, and they know the flower, they know the smell, they know she live here, she's a permanent resident in every place we live in, so they know that. So, you know, talking to them at, you know, at young ages, as young as, because my youngest is 9, so even talking to them at that age would, you know what I'm saying, or younger, would make sense. But my question to you, based on being in New York City educational, you know, system on that side as a teacher, do you really believe that someone could put, not that somebody could put together the proposal, that proposal could be put together, but how do you think they would, how would they, exactly, how would they approach that shit before they, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm assuming, just being as a parent, they'd be looking at it like, who the fuck did this? Who let this pass security?
Right. What I would say is it would probably, no, because the DOE is funded by the state, which means it's then funded by the federal government. And as long as the federal government is completely illegal about cannabis, it's that's probably a pipe dream for real. But what that reminds me of is back when I was starting out teaching, and I started off as a teacher assistant. I worked with a teacher who was really forward thinking, and we were teaching first grade, and she bought or fundraised a hydroponic system for the classroom. And together, the both of us, we set up this, it was an ebb and flow tray table hydroponic system. And she said, I want to try something. So we started to grow vegetables in the classroom in the corner. And then the next year after that, we ended up with 3 different hydroponic type of systems. We had the tray table, which would flood, and then the water would go down. We ended up fundraising for, or the parents fundraised for an aquaponic system, and we had a tank with herbs on the top.
Nice.
And then we ended up having a tower garden where it was on wheels, and there was a reservoir of water at the bottom, and then going up the tower, there were different leafy greens. So all we ended up doing was we built a science curriculum around what it means to farm in an urban setting in the city. And we were in the west side of Chelsea, and that classroom in particular had the resources because the parents were well off, and it was a gifted and talented classroom.
When you talk about Chelsea, the west side, yes. Those are the rich to-do whites.
Yes.
Those are the rich to-do whites. Yes, indeed.
They had the money to put into their students because, you know, that they're their kids. So that entire year and a half, we built the science curriculum around what does it look like to grow food? What does it look like to have the resource or not? We took it outside and did a compare and contrast of this is what it looks like when you can grow in your own setting and control everything versus growing outside in the flower beds of the schoolyard, and it's out in the elements, and it's people walking up and down the street like there's something is different. So, and we had the teacher next door, he came in one day after school and looked at it, and he made a joke, and he was like, you think you guys are going to grow marijuana? And at the time I was like clutching my pearls. He was a white man who said this, and I was like, how could you say something like that? We are doing something very righteous here. We're helping the students learn how to grow food, and we talked about it. But when I look back at where I am, when I look back at that moment to now and how impactful it was to see, like we talk about cannabis in the workplace, and we talk about the different settings behind it, and a big thing now or grow. And a lot, and besides, we wouldn't have the food we have now, a majority of it, without indoor farming or growing facilities.
Right.
And it was because of cannabis prohibition in the first place, people got innovative. They said, we can't grow outside because they might come for me. They'll find out, we got to take it inside.
Find a way.
And those systems were what made a path for how we get a lot of our food right now.
Beautiful.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And especially look at the world around us. And this is what we taught to the first graders at the time was, hey, we live in a world now where farmland and land in general isn't how it used to be. We are using a lot of our land. We are using a lot of our resources. You know? And so,
you know what I mean? And you're teaching the kids, and that there's alternative ways to sustain yourself. And to be honest, what I've heard recently is that New York City has adapted, like, you know, Department of Education has adapted more schools that, you know, definitely have, you know, hydroponic, you know, labs in their school where they're actually teaching kids to grow things of that nature. Because my 9-year-old tells me about stuff that she's growing in her classroom all the time. So, and you know what I mean? So, you know, that I can commend, you know, the DOE for, you know, adapting that education. Matter of fact, you know, to be honest, DOE has changed a lot of things about how they educate these kids. Because even, you know, when my middle child was in junior high school, you know, there was a class that she was learning about, you know, how to make beats.
High storm in the building. Motherhood Sex Marijuana rolling papers in the building. Motherhood Sex Marijuana merch in the building. If you're here, we thank you. and we most certainly appreciate you. But we want you to spread the word, tell a friend, subscribe, make sure and get yourself some rolling papers. And of course, if you want to sponsor an episode, if you want to be on an episode, if you have products you want to show us that we want to show the people, come through. You feel me? Motherhood, sex, marijuana, rolling papers, merch, YouTube, subscribe, fight all the algorithms, and let us get in. Yeah?
And it was like, yo, like
The
you know what I'm saying?
practical
Like
stuff
that's
that people can learn
like
for
there's
life.
all kind of shit that they're adding to, education to, not only keeps the kids interested, but also to show them, different ways and different options, and you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
I would think you would think that, you know what I mean, adding something like cannabis would, you know what I'm saying, would be something as innovative as what everything else that they're doing. But of course, they going, they going to take their time on that because, that's too
Oh,
radical for
absolutely.
them.
The
You know what
federal
I
thing
mean?
might get in the way. Charmaine, I wanted to ask you something specific in terms of if there was a product, whether it was an edible or a strain, and it had everything to do with who you are, what would be the name? What would be the effects of said medicinal beauty? And what would be the best way to distribute it? Damn, I asked some good questions.
That's a
I
good
love that
question.
question because what I know now about how cannabis has changed my life, I'm so far in now at this point that I have found, like, I always tell people off to the side is find a way to consume, find a way to apply it, find a way to just infuse it into your routine. And one of my most favorite ways is actually not even an edible or a consumable, it's a topical. Finding cannabis in
Oh,
a skincare regimen
Love
will
it.
get you together. So the fact that
and see, that's not to cut you off, but that's another
you're
lane
asking me that, I
in
have
the
thought about
cannabis
this.
in the cannabis industry to put it in creams and
Get into
lotions
it.
and
Yes.
makeup.
Absolutely.
Let's go. Somebody put it in the makeup so
Yes.
I could buy
Cosmetics,
it.
skincare. Yes.
And
I actually want
suppositories as well. I love suppositories.
suppositories.
Both I love vaginal stuff too that help to with my lady parts. These are things that
Listen,
people have no freaking clue. And then just having basic conversations. So it would be a topical, what would be the name, what would be the effects, and how would you distribute it?
the effects, it would definitely be it would be THC infused because that is how I love a CBD, but I like to I want THC. That's what I want. I
Yes.
want that part of my body to have a local effect. I don't know the
Mm.
name. That's a good question. But I do have my brother gave me an idea for a brand, and shout out to him. He gave me the idea
Shout
for
out,
a
brother.
brand or something that he was the first person I talked to about a lot of this stuff. So he
Mm-hmm.
supported me, and he said your brand should be called, or like think of something like Sticks and Stoned or something like that. And he put me onto that. I
Nice.
wrote it down, I saved it. But
Sticks
I
and stones.
actually Sticks and Stone, and I feel so passionate about people knowing about cannabis in as many ways as possible, not just
Mm.
by and not just by eating it, edibles and stuff, but I'm like, you can get hemp seeds from your natural food store.
Yes.
You can put that in breakfast. You can try a topical. There are patches. There are so many ways, and a lot
Tinctures.
of times tinctures. I had a moment with tinctures, and that's really what made me back when I was making those connections, I said it was the
Mm-hmm.
tinctures especially. But when I talk to a lot of the people on the street, when I do outreach, it's a lot of older seniors and so, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
I've had my days, I'm done, and I'm like, I'm experiencing that. I guess this is the true story is I watched my mom deal with pain, and I said, you don't have to have like this debilitating she had surgery a long time ago, and once you
Mm-hmm.
have surgery on your back, it's it's over. I hate to say it, but she has to move in such a way, and I found her a topical from this brand, and she tried it, and on a bad day, my mom she needs assistance getting out of her own bed on a bad day. And that could impact her for 3, 4, 5 days in a row until she feels good enough to get back up again. And I said, try this CBD topical. And she's damn near about to be the brand or the spokesperson for the brand at this point. She tells so many people about it. And I watch that was the thing that hit me, is that I watched my mom change.
Powerful.
Just from a topical, just from CBD alone. I said, now this is a different level, because if this is what my loved ones are experiencing, and I've tried this with my neighbor, I told my neighbor about this brand and I gave her some of the cream, and she said right in front of me within 10 minutes, she said, I feel different. The pain is easing. I said, now I understand what my purpose has to be in this, is that people need to know about their options. They need to know about their options. They need to be informed. They need to know that you have choice and you can be educated about this, that you shouldn't be scared about cannabis.
They have to hear from regular ass people like us and not celebrities. I can't stand when, especially these celebrities within the cannabis industry, come with their name and so little integrity for the actual product. It pisses me off so hard. Like, if you're gonna go through that much trouble, right, with your business, don't just use a clout, and don't, because we're not helping the industry. We're not helping our communities by doing that. I'm sorry, there's a few celebrities that got me pissed off with their products. I'll have to rant on that on my own.
And see, it's a good thing that you mentioned that too, because honestly, when you really see the celebrities come out with their brands, their brands are not for, yes, they have their strains, and they are pushing them in different stores, and they have their their joints and whatnot, but they're not, a lot of them they're not really into the topicals and to the pain, pain handling what I'm saying, type of situations. You know what I mean? They're not really there. And if they are, and so they literally just in the flower part, because they just like, fuck it, the flower part is what's making money. But at the end of the day,
at least make it good, make it affordable.
You know what I'm saying? They are people that, you know what I'm saying, that definitely need the topicals and things of that nature. And some of these people are definitely not even gonna, experience the topicals unless they hear it from word of mouth and actual, what I'm saying, people being like they're, the topicals like brand ambassador in order to push the idea and the promotion of the medicine. So, you know what I mean? The good thing of the fact that they exist is one thing, but also getting them out there so that people are not jumping to connect with these pills and whatnot, because again, these pills have side effects, and 9 times out of 10 they come with a level of expense that you know what I'm saying, that you might not be able to deal with, when the topical might be more reasonable. It might be, what I'm saying, depending if you got a medical card, you might fuck around and get it cheaper, you know what I mean, shit like that. So having someone, being able to walk, people through, those processes, I'm glad that, you decided to, take that on upon yourself. Now, my question is, how are you doing that? Like, do you have are you doing that like, via social media posts, or do you have a website, or are you actually, because I think I saw on one of your posts on Instagram that you said something about, you're taking patients. So how exactly, besides the outreach, what are you doing to get the message out?
So this is all brand new. When you hit me up and said, can we ask you to come on the pod? That was me stepping out of my own comfort zone and saying, it's no longer can we play small, is come out.
That's
and
right.
Nice.
Make sure So the
Nice. Step on out with us. Let's go.
stepping
We
out,
got you. We
you
got
guys
you.
confirmed, you all confirmed that the message was being received in the places where it needed to be, because
Mm.
it said nobody's gonna know about this if you're not talking about it. And
Hey,
not gonna come
true.
looking
We
for
have
you to go. You have to go where the people. I'm in the making this program or a curriculum, but I really do want to foster an environment of support and like coaching and education all around cannabis, especially to help Black women, Black people, because those are my people in general. A lot of the
no.
stuff, the work
It,
that I do is always in mind of what is going to help the Black community, period. Period.
Word.
Period.
'Cause
Everybody else
that-
can get help, but I see my people and I want to help them.
No, let's be honest. The Black people is what's driving the cannabis industry in all levels, that we're talking about in the first place. Whether it is
Exactly.
recreational, medical. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean. I don't know, you did say you moved back to New York in 2001. You saw it when it became legal. You saw how it was out in these streets. It was on every corner. There was buses, there was cabs, there was all kinds of things. There was people on corners, you know what I mean? So, and it's still going on right now. You know what I'm saying? Yes, we got a lot more dispensaries, and shout out to the dispensaries. Definitely shout out to the dispensaries that are owned and ran by Black people and
definitely.
and you know what I mean, or women owned and all of that. You know what I
I'm
mean?
proud
But
of
the
them.
plug is still plugging because the plug don't necessarily want to get a New York City cannabis license. So it is what it is.
Man,
And
y'all make it so hard for
and
these people, man. Y'all make it so hard out there. My heart goes out when I started researching how hard it was to get a fucking license. I was like, man, black market, where you at? Because that's who I'm gonna fucking buy from.
because
Where's the
it's
black
damn
market?
sure don't make it easy to get that license. And again, because we live in New York City, we know how shit run. Cash rule everything around me. Cream, get the money. You know what I'm saying? That's not just a Wu-Tang line. That's a real New York City
World.
situation. The landlord gonna get his rent in advance all the time, so he don't give a fuck. And at the end of the day, the spot is open. Weed must be sold. Weed will be bought. And New York City, and there's motherfuckers in New York that don't want to necessarily pay tax to buy eighth. Like, nah. Like, why I gotta pay you tax on this eighth? Wait a minute.
Yes.
There is
And
Wait
a
a
then,
minute.
definite
And then because it might have a celebrity name, you charging me $80 for the eighth. You
yeah,
charging me
fuck that.
$100 for the eighth. And I'm
Fuck
looking
that.
at you like the plug gonna give me $50 for the eighth. Or
Or
you know what
less.
I'm saying? Or
what I will say
$40 for the eighth. You know what I mean?
to
Yeah.
that is a lot of people's story when I do outreach in the community, and I people will say, like, I can't afford this right now. Like, I can't, these prices, this tax doesn't me. And I always say to people is, I will never knock you for where you get your medicine, because if you're getting it from old boy who's on the corner and you have an established relationship with him, who am I to judge you? Because that's not my
Thank you.
as an
Baby.
educator, I don't want to come in with judgment first. I want to come in with understanding.
Thank
And
you.
seeing I live in Brooklyn.
Me too,
Shout out
girl.
to
Trust me. I
Flatbush.
know what you're
Shout out
talking about.
Brooklyn.
Shout out to
Me too,
Flatbush.
girl. I know what you're talking about. And just like
But
I said, me and Ruby met in Seattle, and of course on the West Coast has always had the marijuana business handled correctly. You go in the dispensary, you could get a beautiful eighth for $25, and the tax is within the $25. When you look at the receipt says that the weed cost you $22 and it was like $3 in tax. That's how it came up to 25. So therefore you don't even feel that shit. That shit is not even a part of your life. You know what I mean? So, experiencing that, to then coming here, and then, you know, seeing how New York is dealing with it, because after all, as a New Yorker, New York government is very much about that paper. What? Hold up, we gonna make weed legal? Wait a minute. Okay, so how
How
much
can you
money
tax
we
it,
charging
right?
these people? Now we got to figure out how we gonna charge
Make
these
them
people,
run
because
through
we
hoops.
need that. We need our money too. We need our money too. You know what I
It's
mean?
a
Tour.
highly
And to
regulated
be honest,
industry.
that's another reason why the plug is running too, because the plug is like, what the fuck? I gotta pay to run a store. I gotta pay
Show
employees.
these
I gotta
documents.
and I gotta pay New York City
Play this
to
dumbass
stay alive.
game.
Plus, I gotta pay this high ass rent, light, gas, because hello, it's New York City. The fuck we
Staff.
talking about? The plug is looking at you like, nah, I'm gonna cut like 3 or 4 of these motherfuckers just by not getting a license. Like, fuck you and your license. 3 or 4 of these
Yeah.
motherfuckers out. It's out of my pockets just because I ain't getting no license. Fuck you, me.
And
Right.
You know what I
I would be remiss if I didn't say that shout out to Legacy, because we would not be where we are in cannabis whatsoever without
Legacy
Mhm.
growers.
operators. And it's exactly what, as far as New York State is aiming to build. And
Mhm.
somebody, a manager of mine reminded me and helped me understand this process of legalization in New York, and how the Office of Cannabis Management is going about some of these steps, and saying, what what New York State is aiming to do is to make sure that what the MRTA, Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, has listed out, it took
Mhm.
time to make sure that they included the people that were supposed to be included. So people that are impacted by cannabis via the law, small business owners and operators. Let us make sure, no matter what New York State is doing, those are the people in the room that get these opportunities first out the gate. And now also, that is what it says, but we also have to do better too about pushing those in power to be like, hey, if this is not what we're seeing on the streets, if this is what we are supposed to have, if there are supposed to be more women-owned businesses, or if there's supposed to be legacy operators at this table, where are they?
That's a
That's
good
the point.
question, Charmaine.
We
That's
have
the
to
point,
That's
Queen.
the
That's the
question.
point.
continue to knock
Yeah.
on the door and say, this is not, and this is what I love about New York City specifically, because the 5-borough coalition is a group of people from the boroughs saying, this is what we are not seeing. And they're coming from the real estate side. They're coming because real
Mhm.
estate is a big part of New York State, of New York State
Absolutely.
legalization. Real estate folks are coming and saying, we're not seeing this in the boroughs. We need somebody to represent. We're not
Right.
seeing this in terms of the retail operations and hiring and such. Like, who can
And
help somebody sit down and fill out an application? Where is this assistance coming from, so that we can make sure, if we are aiming to have 50% of licenses be owned by any number of those people who are impacted by cannabis, they need the assistance. They need to be sitting down with somebody so that they can explain, because
and
that's
advise
And
properly.
and
Yeah.
they need to make it clear,
Right.
because first of all, I can tell you like this: we had some women on our show from Jersey who, and one of them is said that she actually represents cannabis, women in cannabis in Senate. Like, she has a seat and she speaks to, you know what I mean? Because according to her, it's in the whole of United States, it's like 4% of women of women in cannabis, and
not
it's like,
enough.
and then that 4%, it really, you know what I'm saying? It's not,
It's not enough.
it's not. It's very little LGBT representative. It's very little
Right.
Black represent, and they even told us that there's some of these dispensaries who claim that they women own, who claim that they Black women own, is probably backed by some white man
White money.
who just paid the extra money to say it and have her sign the paper. But in real talk, he's the one in the back controlling everything. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
like, And honestly, I feel like New York is definitely doing a lot of that, because let's be honest, New York City government has always had first of all, government period. Let's be honest. They all about, you know what I'm saying, showing the public this while doing this in the back, because again, it's all about the Benjamins. It's all a cash rule everything
Oh,
around me. You know what I mean? And they definitely they only opened the doors for cannabis based on the money that they knew was coming in, because they knew. Like, come on, especially in New York City. Like before it became legal, the fuckery of a cop stopping you because you smoking a blunt it was dumb. It was ridiculous. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Doing all the paperwork for a
Unnecessary.
blunt. Like, come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to the point where now you can actually walk past a cop with a blunt, like, yeah, nigga, fuck you. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm
right.
saying? Like on
I
some
mean,
hot
in
shit.
theory.
You can definitely do it. But
In
again,
theory, yeah.
the name of the game for them is all about money, and they only let the
Yeah.
doors open because of money. And what
Yeah.
they showing
Well,
us is not what they're doing in the back. They're definitely, you know what I'm saying, keeping women out. They're definitely keeping Black women out. Black people, period. They definitely keeping LGBT out. And it's like the steps, and it's like it's like they flying the plane, they building the plane and flying it at the same time, because they creating new fucking hurdles for motherfuckers to jump through.
oh
I can
man,
understand.
that just thought made me think of something, but it's probably a bad joke. But it was just never mind. I'll say it on another one. But speaking of money, Charmaine, I'm gonna just ask you, what have been the most effective ways for you to fund these opportunities or these ventures that you're looking to fund, or is it a self-funded?
It is completely self-funded at this
Mhm.
point, and that is quite a challenge, and it's just reality. And so
Mhm.
um I have to get, especially when it comes to cannabis, because marketing is different, funding is
Mhm.
different, especially when it comes from entities like the federal government, federal banking.
Right.
Uh,
Mhm.
but I'm up for that challenge because I understand how important this all is. And
Yes.
it's about the health of all of us, about the community, my community of people. Because walking up and down the streets of Flatbush, well, what I should say, I sat in on a panel at the Capitol in Albany. Um, and there was in the panel were people from the MRTA, from the Office of Cannabis Management. And the
Okay.
takeaways I got from that were there were so many Black and brown individuals that came together to to pass legalization, the MRTA, um, and take into account the people that could potentially get left behind. And so
Mhm.
what that told me is the grassroots work is still necessary and needed. And that's what
Mhm.
we're seeing as New York State develops into because New York State is still a pretty young market. It's still very in its infancy. And a lot of states
True.
in general, when you compare them to like Colorado and California, it's still a very young market. But that
Absolutely.
means that, and what I'm proud to say and see too, is that the same people that sat down and came together to write that law, which is incredible to me. Like I can't imagine sitting down to write a law or a bill. But hopefully one day I get to. But those people are still advocating to this day. And that told me, if that's me sitting in the audience said, if that's what they're still doing, that means that I'm still going to be doing that work as well, is
Mhm.
advocating for and challenging and pushing to make sure that we see more Black women-owned dispensaries, and that we do see an LGBTQ plus presence as well in ownership in every vertical we see, in cultivation all the way up to retail, from
Word.
processing and manufacturing. There is more than enough space to have these people,
Mhm.
and there should
Mhm.
be space. That's what we need
Absolutely.
to see in New York. We need to, because that is how we build trust with this plant. That is how we
Mhm.
build understanding amongst ourselves and community.
Mm-hmm. And it's
Yeah.
long overdue.
It's very much long overdue.
So crazy. We have so much work to do. Even within this network, I think that we're just beginning to scratch the surface on what we as a podcast really represent, because obviously it's in the title, right? Duh.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you break it down so much more, it's like giving us so much more than we even bargained for. Like, this is a whole community. And then it's like all we need is for our communities to work together cohesively. And that's one thing I really love about, let's say, I would say the pain of tragedy is like the clear that comes after it. After shit's been burnt to the ground and shit's been discovered, whatever, it's like we really have a chance to start again, because, as you said, this is like a living, breathing thing. It's not done. Just because you can
Mm-hmm.
smoke in New York City don't mean it's done. It's net. We have,
It's
yeah. And
not done
so,
It's
down in
definitely not
Mississippi
done
or
just because
Alabama
we
and
can
Georgia.
now smoke.
right.
It's definitely not done just because we now smoke. Because
Exactly.
again, there's still all levels of stigmas and you know what I'm saying, situations going on. And like you said, there's not enough. You know what I mean? For just like she said, realty would be the one thing about, you know, about opening, you know, anything involving cannabis, and whether it be a dispensary or just like a medical type of therapy type of situation, because New York still has rules that, you know, you can't put it next to a church, it can't be down the block from a school, it can't, you know what I mean, they still got, you know, and again, like I said, they build in the plane as they flying it. So in that sense, you know what I'm saying, they coming up with rules and regulations to curb you and to I guess deter you from the path of, you know, just, you know, pushing the narrative out there. Now, Charmazinnng, I'm gonna ask you about this. Now, have you heard about the cannabis expo that happens at the Javits Center?
Yes, I have, and I've been there. I've visited, and I've worked there, or I've worked with my organization during
Oh,
that time.
nice.
Yes, yes.
That's right.
Nice. So that also leads to the question I was going to ask you about, you know what I'm saying, about networking, because I'm assuming in order for you to build, you know, this educational network, you got to be getting with people. You got to be showing up in spots, you know, where cannabis is being discussed, and you know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? And I figure, like, you know what I'm saying, just listening to how you talk, like, did you ever apply to even, you know, be one of their speakers and whatnot? Because, like, that, you know what I mean, that's definitely something, you know what I mean, what you're talking about is definitely something that does get talked about there, because you know that already because you've been there. So, you know what I mean, like, that, you know what I mean, that again leads to the question I was going to ask about, you know, what are your networking options that you've taken in order to get your message out?
I have to go back to my roots, which was when I was first starting to say, like, where is education and cannabis intersection? Where is that happening? I was
Mm.
um shout out to the Canna Diva, Tanya Murray put me, or Tanya Osborne was
I love that woman. Yes, very much
Tanya
so.
Tanya
Love you,
Osborne,
Tanya.
um uh Saki put me on. Like, they were the ones that gave me a chance and a shot to be in the room. And that's
Hmm.
when I understood, okay, these are the places where I have to tell people this is what I'm into. At the time I said, I just want to use my teaching skills and put it into cannabis and help somebody in something in some way. I didn't know exactly what it
Hmm.
would be, but I knew that the message had to be about, we need to unlearn what we thought we knew about cannabis
Word.
and take this to the next level and heal our, because it was always about healing. That's what I know now.
Word.
It
That
was always
part.
about feeling better mentally, physically, even spiritually, because all of that has
Hmm.
impacted in my journey. And I said, if this is how I feel, then I know that other people have the capacity to feel this too. And
Word.
it's one of those things where I said, I didn't know that God would want me to be here in a place like this. 5 years ago, you would have told me that this was my journey and I would have laughed. I would have absolutely
Shit,
laughed.
girl. Let me tell you something. When I met Ruby, if I even said it to her on our last pod. When I met her, if somebody would have told me that me and her would have been good ass friends, I would have told her what? What the fuck you talking about? I don't know. No.
I knew
And I made sure to tell y'all, like, this is still such a very new arena to be
Mm-hmm.
operating in, because a lot of people are still moving on with like old ideas, like your brain is gonna fit into a fried egg or scrambled egg or something.
All that shit.
But this is innovative, and I'm so happy to see Black women talking about the realities of motherhood, talking about the realities of parenting, talking about what it means to medicate. It's because so many people identify as mothers in the world, and I see mothers because I'm, as a teacher, as an auntie, as a person in the community, I watch how we are operating when it comes to youth and parenting and families, because that was my business at some point, was to pay attention to that. And so being a mother is hard. That is very, very hard. It's a lot of sacrifice. It needs support and community. And then when you add in cannabis, and like you said, there's clarity that comes with cannabis in whatever form you get it. The clarity of I I can't identify as a mom, but if I'm just handling my level of stress on a day-to-day and I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, I can only imagine adding in a young person that came from me and sending them out into the world. Like, I have to have some type of peace of mind in the decision making that comes with that. You're watching somebody grow up. Somebody said, like, that's my heart walking outside of my body, and I said, I
Literally.
cannot imagine.
Literally, but at the same time, as a teacher, you definitely have the, you know what I'm saying, the nurturing part that
and leader.
that comes with motherhood. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You want to see the best, you want to, give them the best.
Want the
You want to,
best.
you know what I'm saying, warn them from fuckery, you know what I'm saying? And if they doing something wrong, you want to, you know what I'm saying, be able to determine whether it's gentle love or tough love, which, whatever works based on how the child that interacting with, you know what I'm saying? It's still a level
And
of being an auntie and being a teacher. You definitely have that, queen. Don't doubt it.
totally. And you know what? The fact of the matter is, yeah, I'm a mom, right? Okay. But here's the thing. I care about my kids because I have to. I'd be really shitty if I didn't, right?
Word,
But
because Lord knows we have those in the
if you
world.
don't have that same, like, I would say, if you don't have that same commitment, but you can still, like, get out of your own self and find somebody to love and to find purpose out of it, you're mothering. So it's like, it goes either way. You know what I'm saying? I love being an auntie. I was an auntie, I'm still an auntie, duh. But it's like, that's
Yes.
one of my favorite jobs ever. Why? Why is it my favorite job? Because I don't have to like this little shit, but I do. I have to. There's no obligation. Just because my sister and my brother had it does not even mean. And I have some aunts and uncles that don't give a shit about me. So it's like, okay, just to be honest.
To be
But
in the
Charmaine,
village.
I just wanted to thank you so much. I have to go, but I love you, and I hope that you come back.
Oh no, go ahead. Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead. If anything, I'm just gonna ask her to like, maybe, let us know, what your future plans with this. Well, we already know
Yeah,
your
and I
future
didn't ask
plans.
you any nasty questions. I need to get you back on here to get in your bedroom, girl.
Oh Lord. Because
That's gonna be a part 2 episode, hopefully.
That's a part 2 episode. But yes, yes, definitely let the people know, you know what I mean, how people can find you and where exactly, you know what I'm saying, like when you do outreach, like where exactly do you be, or do you pick or do you just pick a corner and just hit it?
I am, well, you can definitely find me on my Instagram. I'm adding more cannabis related information and education there on that platform. You can definitely find out. I have my LinkedIn page in my bio because I want to be a professional in the world that embraces cannabis as as the plant that it is. Um, and just look out for new and exciting things as I build out this program that is supportive and melanin rich.
Mm,
And if I'm currently closing a chapter with the outreach that I'm doing. So I'm looking forward to being more at events in New York City.
nice.
I definitely want to make sure I get to some conferences throughout the US because the cannabis conferences are where it really happens. Those are the rooms you want to be in. So
Absolutely. Like places like the Canna Parade down on 14th Street, you know what I'm
absolutely,
saying? The
absolutely.
CWCB Expo, you know what I'm saying? Anything that Canna Diva is doing is always on point. And I think what's her name? Um weed on tea. She is
Full
definitely. If
on.
you haven't heard of any of these ladies, well, you already said mention Canna Diva, so I know you heard of Canna Diva. But
Full
if you
on is
haven't
a
heard
phenomenal human
of
being.
weed on tea, please look her up because she's definitely throws a lot of, you know what I'm saying, women, black women infused, cannabis infused type of events that you could definitely get into. And of course, anything else anything, if anything comes up, of course, we're gonna do a part two. And then if anything else goes on that you would like to announce or you would like to, you know what I'm saying, promote, definitely send us information, send us the information because we'll blast it on our social media and
Thank
definitely put it in
you.
our YouTube channel. And of
Thank
course, when this episode will be on YouTube in about 2 weeks. And when it gets on YouTube, we'll make sure and send you the link. And of course, we you know what I'm saying, we thank you for, giving us your time. And of course, excusing my lateness in the beginning. And Rules, she got to go and do her comedy show. I'm
Look,
assuming that's where she going. But yes,
things
either
happen right
way,
on time. Don't even
yeah,
worry. These
we
things
all
happen right on time.
word, you know what I mean? Everything happens for a reason and a season. That's what I love, you know what I mean?
It
And
is.
on that note, motherhood, sex, marijuana in the motherfucking building with Charmazinnng. Yes.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much, Queen, for bringing your beauty and your melanin to our show, and especially the cannabis education to our show, of course. And
Thank
we
you.
are looking forward to seeing more about you in whatever you do.
Thank you.
All right, now have a good night.
Take care.
All right.